Hey, gang. Welcome to the first episode of season 2. Try not to curse. Elizabeth Marvel here. It is my 40th birthday, you guys. I'm actually recording this like a month earlier, but today, the air date when this episode goes live, it is my 40th birthday. I plan to have a really nice time with family and friends this weekend and just, enjoy myself as one is wont to do. I'm not a big blowout party person. Like all of my friends are like, you've got to do this. And I'm like, no, we're going to get together. We're going to do some fun stuff. We're going to the city tomorrow. It's going to be great. But as promised in the end of season 1, as you guys know, I have been to Australia since the last episode aired, and I'm going to talk about it. I recorded a couple of bits while I was there during my travels, just observations, things going on when I finally landed in Australia, and talking with producer Mike on how best to present it. And I said, you know what? I've got it on my phone. Let's just get on the mic. I'll play the clips as they come, and then I'll just kind of talk through each bit. I actually haven't listened to these since I recorded them, so it's going to be an adventure for the both of us. And there's probably going to be some weird juggling of going back and forth between the files on the phone, but I'm going to do the best that I can to keep track of everything and hopefully not fuck it up too badly. But as you guys know, I'm always really transparent about money because listen, we all have expenses. We all have things we want to do. The cost of living sucks ass. Inflation is ridiculous. We're all going through it. But I think it's really important to be honest and manage expectations when talking about such a huge trip like this. I don't want anybody going in being like, wow, Liz made it seem like it was so doable and it was so manageable and it was, the trip of a lifetime, which it was. But I'll tell you right now, I had a budget of $15,000 and $8,000 just were for my flights alone. So on my way there, I flew out business class. It took 2 full days of travel, 3 different planes, as I will explain in one of the clips. And that flight alone was $6,400. Then on the way back, I went from, thankfully, my cousin, as you guys know, works for an airline I've mentioned before. She was able to get me on a standby flight from LA to JFK. So I flew economy from Sydney to LA. And just the economy ticket alone was $2,200. And if I wanted to upgrade to premium economy, it would have cost $4,200. So I don't understand why one upgrade automatically shoots it up $2,000, but I wasn't about to do that. So I had a miserable flight from Sydney to LA on a budget. And then again, I flew standby from LA to JFK for much less, thankfully. But it's a lot. Just the travel alone is a lot. It's worth it once you get out there and you spend your time, as you guys will hear in these clips. But I just wanted to be on the forefront of that and be completely transparent. I will say of the $15,000 that I had in my budget, I only spent about $13,000. So I still did come home with money. I wasn't completely broke by the time I came back home. But again, the majority of that, and I'm not saying this in a braggadocious way by any means. This is something that I've been planning for a very long time. This is something that I knew I had to budget for. I had to be really mindful of my cash and what I spent and the things that I did. I also fucked up and spent a lot of money on Taylor Swift tickets when I really didn't need to. We'll get into that later on as well. But yeah, so again, this is just, this is probably going to be 2 episodes long. So the first and second episode of the second season is all about my Australia trip. As a lot of you guys know, if you follow me on Facebook, on my personal Facebook page, every single day I did try to summarize the trip as best I could with pictures and just sharing some education of the different things that I had learned of the animals that I met and the overall area that I was in each day. But these little snippets are just kind of throughout the trip that haven't been shared yet. I did share some things on Snapchat as well. So across all the various platforms, hopefully you guys get a full cohesive picture of what my trip was like. So let's get started with the first clip. Hey gang, I have officially reached Brisbane. I was on 3 separate flights. It took me a full 2 days of travel. It was quite an experience, but it was great. I will say I wore a mask the entire time, and thank Christ that I did. Every fucking flight, somebody was sneezing, coughing. Every single time I was in a line, somebody is coughing, open mouth coughing. Like, oh my God. Like, it's like the pandemic never fucking happened. Like, we learned nothing. But the flights weren't too miserable. Thankfully, everything went off without a hitch. Like, while I was standing in customs in Brisbane, I could see my checked bag on the carousel, and that was a little hairy because my bag, because my flight was from the US to Auckland, New Zealand, and then to Brisbane, Australia. So I don't know how things work. That was my biggest concern, was like, is my bag going to be there when I get there? Because, you always hear those nightmare scenarios. I'm currently sitting in my rental car on the left-hand side, trying to muster up the courage to drive. I wanted to record myself driving, but my lavalier mics are not cooperating with me right now. So, but oh my, you guys, I can't tell you how desperate I am for a shower, but I can't check in. It's 11:30 a.m. on the 20th, and it's still the 19th in the US. It's about 8 o'clock at night in the US on the 19th right now. But I can't check in into my hotel until around 3. So I'm going to take this time and learn how to drive and hopefully get comfortable enough being on the left-hand side that I don't fuck anything up, because I'm going to be doing a lot of driving in the next, couple of days. But I'm going to go to a Bunnings, which is their version of a Home Depot, and pick up some batteries. I'm going to go, they have Target here. So yes, I'm going to find myself a Target. They call them Target Country for some reason. So I'm going to go to a Target Country and get a couple of toiletries that I didn't pack with me. And definitely some bottled water and some snacky things. I am starving, so I might stop somewhere and eat as well. Have to figure all of that out. But for the most part, you guys, it worked out really well. I will say I'm glad I did this trip after my surgery. I'm officially 80 pounds down now. And being 80 pounds down, I was in a pod in my business class, and I was able to fully recline the seat so I could, stretch it out like a bed. And I still had my seatbelt on the entire time, but I was able to kind of, sleep on my side, toss and turn back and forth, all while still having the seatbelt on. And I don't think I'd be able to have done that had I not lost all this weight. So I'm really thankful for that. And everything worked out pretty darn well. So, man, I ate like a king too. If you ever get the chance to fly in one of those pod things, international, they treat you right. I mean, it's essentially first class. There was first class pods that had like full like walls, like you could shut your full door and be hidden from everybody. But the food was incredible. The service was really great. They gave me a little toiletry kit, which I actually did end up using. There was like a lip balm in there and a toothbrush and toothpaste that I used. They even gave me socks, which I did change my clothes when I got to Auckland, because I had a 3-hour layover there, and then it was another 3.5 hours to Brisbane. So I changed my clothes to try and feel a little fresher. But I didn't think about changing out socks. So I'm wearing the socks that Air New Zealand provided for me. So that was really great. But, the car attendant guy is staring at me while I'm sitting in this car for 10 minutes. So I'm going to attempt to take off. I will let you know how all of that went. And shit. Welcome to Brisbane, y'all.
So I did actually end up going to, I did a little bits of shopping because honestly, once I got going, the driving was not bad at all. And I found a mall. Basically all of their shopping centers are kind of like mini malls. So they had a Target, they had a Kohl's, which is their like their like main chain of like supermarkets, COLES. So first I went into Target thinking it was going to be just like a Target back at home where I can do all of my shopping in one place. Well, no, in Australia, the
the shopping centers, the supermarkets are the supermarkets, and the specialty stores are specialty stores. So just like JCPenney, Macy's, Sears, like you go and you buy clothes, you buy home goods, you buy decor. There is no grocery shopping. You're not getting Huggies there. You're not getting sunscreen. You're not getting, maybe some electronics, but they have their own electronic stores as well. They have a JB Hi-Fi, which is where I went, which is their version of the Best Buy. So went to Target, walked around, realized they didn't have anything that I was looking for, left, went out to Kohl's, picked up some toiletries and a few snacky things to keep in the hotel room, which you guys, again, talking about the bariatric surgery and everything. So like, I am still in the mindset of where I was a year ago, 300 pounds. And even now, like when I do laundry, so I literally just downgraded to a smaller size pair of pants. So now when I do laundry, I pick up these pairs of pants and I'm like, who the fuck is fitting into these? Like I still can't wrap my head around like that. I'm that small now. I went from a size 26 pant to now I'm a size 18 and I still have a ways to go. So that's fucking wild. So just like that, I go to Kohl's and I'm looking around at their snacks and I'm like, oh, let me get like some Australia specific snacks, snacks that I've never seen here. So I got some kind of like cracker thing. And then I got like 2 different types of like chocolate, like wafery type of things, like, desserty type things. I'm thinking, for after dinner, I'll be a little treat before I go to bed or whatever. Not even thinking about the fact that like, well, no, because once you eat, you're full and you're not gonna have room for dessert. So for about a full week of the trip, I was just carrying around these snacks and I hadn't broken into them at all. It wasn't until I was on the road during my travel days that I actually broke in and had some of the snacks. But I did actually end up taking a full box of these. They're called Oreo wafer sticks. I never even opened the thing. So I ended up bringing that home and gave that to Tammy's husband because he's a big Oreo guy. So it's traveling is still trying to juggle and figure things out is still a little tricky with this weight loss stuff, going on. Cause like I said, I'm still operating, as if I'm 300 pounds, but my body has made it very clear that no, you're not. And there's a reason you're not. So that was a little tricky, but yeah, it was interesting seeing, like I said, going to Target and being like, oh, you guys don't have juice and bottled water and cereal. And it's like, no, this is a Target. It's not a Target superstore. And then I proceeded immediately within that shopping center to lose my car. So literally like my first hour in Australia, and I lost my car in the parking lot. I took a picture of it. So I had a point of reference, but the way that they numbered things, it wasn't consistent from level to level. So I actually had to call and ask for help from an attendant, and then they couldn't find the car themselves. So finally the guy came to me in the parking garage and was like, okay, did you happen to take a picture? I said, yeah, of course I did. I've never been here before. So I took a picture. I showed him the picture of the car and he goes, oh, I know right where that is. He was like, I can't believe I did. I totally walked by this car. I can't believe I missed it. I'm so sorry. And I'm like, well, it's fine. I probably walked by it myself. But anyway, so that was the first hour. But it was good. Like I said, I kind of got the hang of things fairly quickly with driving and made it to my hotel, was able to check in. I wouldn't say on time. They were definitely, everybody was trying to check in at 3 when I got there. So I just kind of had to mill around for a little while. But once I was able to check in, everything was pretty good. So let's check the next message. Gang, sorry, not sorry for the music in the background. I am on a Ferris wheel in Brisbane. As I was driving around the city, I saw it from across the way and I was like, oh, we're going on that. You guys know how much I love a Ferris wheel. Actually, you might not. I might not have mentioned it on the pod before, but I can't resist a Ferris wheel. And what better way to see the city? They call it a gondola here. Like, please, it's a Ferris wheel. But yeah, so I got to my hotel, did a couple of, things, went to a mall, picked up, some snacky things to keep in the hotel room, some bottles of water, and just kind of drove around. I'm a lot more comfortable driving than I thought I would be, but the signal switch is on the right-hand side, which I'm having a really hard time getting used to. So I keep turning the windshield wipers on, which is really annoying. But yeah, so I got to my hotel, took a quick shower, unpacked, and said, you know what, let's head to the Ferris wheel. So I took a walk. I think I walked maybe a mile away from the hotel. And here I am on this. Sorry, it's so loud. I don't know how to turn this. Oh, I can turn the volume down. Hold on. Oh, better. So first night in Brisbane, I took myself on a little adventure. I'm fucking exhausted. I, 3 flights. It was like, I don't know, it was probably 20 hours in the air in total. Maybe like 22 hours travel in total between the layovers and stuff like that. And then the time change and all that good stuff. So yeah, I'm pretty wiped. So I'm doing this one little adventure and then I'm walking back to the hotel. There's a 24-hour pizza joint right around the corner from the hotel. So I'm going to grab that. You got to check out pizza wherever you go. I know nothing is good compared to home, but I always got to try it out. So that's what I'm doing tonight. And don't at me. It's my first night here. I got 9 nights to sample the local cuisine. I will say, you guys, Brisbane is a beautiful city. It's huge. It's very much like New York City in the sense that it's crazy busy. There are people all over the streets. There's tons of traffic, but it's not a grid and things are a little more spread out. So I wouldn't say it's easy to navigate, but you figure it out. It's okay. But I can't believe the amount of people that are just walking around all day long. It's wild. But yeah, so I'm on this amazing gondola ride and I'm just having a good old time. So I'm going to put myself to bed shortly after this and Australia Zoo tomorrow.
So I think I recorded something else. I have to go back. Yeah, I did. There's another little bit there, but I do want to emphasize. So I'm recording all of this through my phone. Like I said, I did have lavalier mics with me, but there is some issue with the program. It hasn't been updated, so they won't connect to my phone. We had tried it here. Mike and I had tried multiple times to get it to work. We finally got it to work, so I thought, okay, maybe it was just a fluke, whatever. And then got it to Australia. And no matter what I did, I just couldn't get them to function. So all of this is through my phone. So if the sound is a little funky, that's the situation. So I do apologize for that. But I have one more thing that I recorded on the Ferris wheel. So let's get to that.
Oh, and gang, I forgot to mention, I've already seen 2 birds that I only ever see in a zoo flying around locally. I don't know what one was. It looked kind of like a baby peacock, but it definitely wasn't. And there was an ibis, which I guess I see them in Florida every so often, but so it's really cool. And then just now there are these giant, I wouldn't say, well, they're not giant, they were moderate in size, iguanas at the bottom of the Ferris wheel, just chilling. There's like a little water feature and they're just hanging around the water feature, but there was quite a few of them. So that's going to be like the best part of this whole trip for me, especially when I start making my way down to Sydney and I'll be driving down the Gold Coast. I hear that at dawn and at dusk, kangaroo activity along the roads is pretty common. So I'm really excited to hopefully see some kangaroos outside of a zoo, and who knows what else we'll see, but I'm going to tell you all about it.
So the bird I was talking about was actually an Australian. It's their version of a turkey. It's the Australian turkey. I'm sure there's another name for it, not Australian turkey, but they call it turkey there. And they were everywhere, just like the water dragons. So they're not iguanas. They look very similar to iguanas, but they're called water dragons. They are basically Brisbane squirrels. They don't have squirrels there, but they do have these fucking water dragons, and they are everywhere. No matter where you go, you'll see them. You'll run into them. They scurry around. I saw babies. I saw full grown. I mean, they get pretty freaking big, but they're everywhere. They're just a part of the landscape. So that was really fun. And I still don't know if it's ibis or ibis. I've heard it 2 different ways, but that was really, I would say the worst part about having the layover in Auckland is not being able to spend any time
in New Zealand at all, and the airport is literally on the coast. You know, it's a series of islands, so the airport is right on this shoreline. So as we're taking off, I can see, you know, the ocean, and I can see the landscape. And there was this huge cluster of birds. You know, from a distance, it looked like they could have been Canada geese like we have here. But obviously they weren't. And that was the thing that killed me, because I was like, oh my God, I wish I just knew what those birds were that I was seeing. Like, even if I did like a Google search for local, you know, birds of New Zealand, I wouldn't be able, because they were just so far away that there's no way I'd be able to narrow it down and be like, oh yeah, that's what I saw. So that was the only real disappointing part for me, was like, oh, I'm here and I can't explore, I can't check it out. So that's definitely on the bucket list, is to get back out that way. And visit New Zealand and check it out there. Because I've also heard just absolutely wonderful things about that country as well. And it is like fairly commonplace to go back and forth between New Zealand and Australia. So, you know, just kind of like LA to JFK, like they have flights regularly back and forth between the two countries. So maybe one day if I get back out in that direction. But let's play the next clip.
Gang, I'm on the highway. I know you shouldn't chat and drive or record and drive or whatever the case may be. I'm still having problems with my lavalier mics, unfortunately, so this could sound a lot better, but it doesn't. Sounds like ass. Sorry about that. But I just wanted to point, it sucks. I can't, because I'm driving, so I can't take pictures of anything, but they legitimately here in Brisbane have koala crossing signs. So it's just like our deer crossing signs, but it's a koala instead of a deer, and it's amazing. They also have digital speed limit signs, but under some of the digital speed limit signs, there's just a regular printed sign that says, if the digital sign is out, this is the speed limit. And I'm like, Australia, how about save yourself the electricity and the struggle of dealing with a broken sign, and just use the printed signs, since clearly you're printing some out already anyway. I just thought that was really quirky. And also, I just drove past a Kia that was wrapped in it. I guess it's supposed to look like thick grass, like moss, but obviously it was fake AstroTurf or whatever, but it was completely wrapped in it. It actually looked really, really good, which is how I knew it was fake, because there's no way you can, you know, maintain real grass like that. But there's some quirky shit out here, man, I'll tell you what. But I just had to share. I'm on my way to the Australia Zoo, and of course, at the end of that journey, I will tell y'all about how that experience went. But hopefully I see at least one of the Irwins. I would fucking die. I really hope I see Robert. But, you know, we'll see what happens.
So I knew that the Australia Zoo, which is in Beerwah, so everything's in Queensland. Brisbane is in Queensland. Beerwah is in Queensland. But the Australia Zoo, I knew, was an hour from where I was staying. I don't know if it was excitement or anticipation or just being concerned about traffic. But I ended up getting to the Australia Zoo a full hour before they opened. And I kind of walked in around the same time that employees were walking in, and they all kind of side-eyed me. But just, you know, they just let me go about my business and you know, left me to my own devices. So I sat on a nice bench in front of the entrance for a full hour beforehand. But I did have a really good trip. Let me see if I did actually. Oh, yep, here it is. Here's the clip from the Australia Zoo.
Okay, gang. Day 2 was like a dream. It was like a dream. Even though I knew what activities I had planned, I was in store for so much more. I went to the Australia Zoo. It was about an hour and 15 minutes from my hotel. But it's really funny. So Australians apparently are not used. I mean, they're used to travel, which is so funny to me. Like, they all go to other countries regularly for vacation. They have a good chunk of vacation time. Like, a lot of the time they'll spend like a month or even more in other countries. And yet when I told them that I was driving up north to the Australia Zoo, they were like, oh my gosh, like an hour in the car. Like, that's just such a pain in the ass trip. And I was like, you guys, that's like some people's commutes in the States, like every day. Like, it was just so funny to me that they were like, oh my God, an hour and 15 minutes in the car. And I'm like, and then when I got to the zoo, So as most of you know, if you're friends with me on Facebook, you've seen what I've done. So I had an encounter with a wombat, a female wombat named Burrow. Then I had an encounter with a male rhino named DJ. Then I had an encounter with a male echidna named 3 Foot, who only had 3 feet. Then I got to check out the Australia Zoo's hospital, where they take in all of the indigenous species that get injured or get, found on the side of the road or something going on. But the biggest thing for me was I was like, oh man, like I know the Irwins do stuff throughout the day, but I don't expect, maybe I'll see Robert. I think like Robert seems like to be the most active. Y'all, I saw all the fucking Irwins. I saw all of the Irwins. They were all there, including Bindy's husband, Chandler, who I know isn't an Irwin, but so I saw 3.5 Irwins. That's how I put it. Because Chandler's technically not. But, oh, you guys, what an incredible journey and what an incredible zoo. It's everything that they say it is. They put all of their crocodile hunter money into the hospital. Like that was Steve's mission. It was his goal to just save as many animals as humanly possible and to continue educating the world about why these animals are so important, not only for the ecosystem, but just because they're creatures that should be taken care of and tended to. And that also seems to be a whole vibe in not only Australia, but New Zealand as well, from the videos that they play on the planes and stuff like that. Like they're really, really conscientious about not bringing in, foreign things that could fuck up the ecosystem, that could make any of the local wildlife sick. It's a really big, important mission in these areas. I wish the states gave a fuck, but I think they're just kind of like, oh, squirrels and pigeons can go screw. Like we don't care about raccoons. You know what I mean? Like for some reason, Australia, and maybe it's because a lot of these animals are endangered. I'm not really sure, but conservation is just so important here, and it was just I can't put into words what this day was and what it meant to me. I was near tears planning it. I've been near tears expecting this trip. I've been near tears the whole day. I mean, I almost lost it when all of the Irwins came out. I couldn't believe it. But it was just it really has been the trip of a lifetime, and it's only day 2. So it's something else. And driving still seems to be okay. Again, I turn the windshield wipers on more often than the turn signal, which, I'm still figuring that out, but other than that, it's been okay so far. But Brisbane really is like Times Square. It really is New York City. They have a Tiffany's, they have an Hermes, they have a Cartier and a Louboutin and Mercedes and Maserati and Rolls. I mean, it's wild, the money that's just around this city, in addition to people just walking everywhere all day. Like it's the busiest city I've been to, next to New York and Boston. It's unbelievable to me. Unfortunately, they do have their homeless as well. It doesn't seem to be in as big numbers as like New York or LA or anything like that, but it's still there. But I was on a mission last night when I got home. Well, when I got back to my hotel, because I had been in the dirt all throughout the day, and it's hot out, and sweating and walking around. I fucked up my brand new Hokas because there was like a swampy area that I walked through to get to some kangaroos and wallabies. Fucking don't care, worth it. And I'm bringing Australia dirt home with me, so that's kind of cool. But where was I going with that? But anyway, so when I got back to the hotel, I really wanted to shower, but I was like, I'm not hungry for dinner yet, but I don't want to shower and then have to put another change of clothes on. Like, I feel like I'm just running through all of my clothes, and I'm like, to go back out. So I said, okay, well, I don't have a microwave in my room, but I do have a mini fridge. So let's try and find sushi, which I already knew was going to be harrowing just from my brief trip around the city yesterday. Like, all the Japanese restaurants and sushi places seemed to close at like 6 o'clock. It was really strange. for whatever reason. And I even asked the staff at the hotel, I was like, where can I go for good sushi? And they were like, sushi's tricky around here. So I just did a quick Google and I went to a couple different spots. They do sushi differently than we do back in the States, so it wasn't what I was used to. So I ended up going to like 3 different places until I finally found one that had stuff that I like and was prepared the way that I like. So I picked up some sushi. I picked up a little gelato. It was actually a lot of gelato. It was way more than I intended, but fuck, it was so good. Anyway, so I brought that back to the hotel so I could pop those in the fridge while I showered, unwinded, rearranged some packing because I went shopping and, so it was a great night. So I finished off the night with sushi and gelato, posted my Facebook pictures of the day, and I was in bed by 8:30, 9 o'clock again. So it's probably going to be more of the same today. I am trying to get something different every day for dinner, but again, it's limited and I have to walk a mile to get anywhere and to do anything because my hotel is not a full service hotel. They share amenities with the full service hotel next door. So I've actually been running over there every day to like the business center to get stuff done, which is just really weird. But I might check out their restaurant and see if maybe I can get like something delivered from next door tonight. So that's the plan. We'll see what happens. But, I am off to the Lone Pine Koala Sanctuary, and they have more than just koalas, so stay tuned for that update. Day 3. Oh my gosh, it's just flying by.
So I get more into the excursions and the things with the animals that I've done throughout the trip. By the way, in that clip, I had my Invisalign in because I was already in bed and I was just kind of wrapping up for the day. So that's why I sounded a little funky. Also, my allergies started to kick in that night because it was the first time that my body had experienced consistently warm weather every day. So my allergies just hit me full force. And, I was really nasally and stuffed up pretty much the rest of the trip. I ended up picking up some allergy meds while I was there and falling in love with the throat lozenge called Strepsils that they have in Australia. I actually ordered some more for home here through Amazon. Thank goodness for Amazon, even though we all claim to hate it, we all use it. So I do get into the animal excursions later on in the trip, and again talking on Facebook, and I will be getting into it. I mentioned the Lone Pine Koala Sanctuary. I am actually going to be talking with one of the guides that I met there later on the show. So we get into that too. But in particular, the rhino that I met, DJ, was a 600-pound rhino. He is like a Labrador where he just wants to play and just fuck around. And they actually couldn't keep him on the main property of the zoo and quote unquote on display because he just wants to play with everything. So he actually tore up every enclosure they ever put him in, like literally like ripping fences out of the grass and fucking up things. So they were like, all right, we need to just keep him in the back. We're just keeping him here to breed and just to, live his best life. So when they took us back to meet him, they actually drove it. They told us, they said, we're driving you through the Irwin's literal backyard. So, obviously please be respectful, no photographs. We're not trying to, we're trying to be as minimally invasive as possible because this is where they live. This is where Bindi and Robert were born. We need to be respectful. They're here doing a service for these animals and for the country. And we want to, show our appreciation by not encroaching on their space as much as possible. So that was really cool, little behind the scenes. DJ was fucking cool. We got to pet him. We got to scratch him. Rhinos love being scratched in their folds and their wrinkles. So they showed us where the softest spots on his skin were. And they're like, yeah, he loves a good rub there. So rub him there. We couldn't get anywhere near his head. They made us stand behind his shoulder of his front legs because they said, if he hears a noise off in the distance or something and suddenly swings his head around, we don't want anyone to get clocked by one of his horns or his head or whatever. So safety, of course, was on the forefront. Not only for ourselves, but also for DJ. But he was a cool cat. And I think they said he had fathered six
6 rhinos, at least 6 litters of rhinos. I think they only have one baby at a time, possibly 2 at the most. But he was on a breeding break because, again, with any zoos, conservation is very, very important. But they also want to, they're not trying to have a bunch of inbred animals running around either. That doesn't help the cause. So they are really good about tracking and keeping up with the breeding programs. So he was on a breeding break at the time. They had 3 female rhinos that were on display and, all lived together in harmony and just kind of hung out. So I got to see them as well and take pictures of them. I talk about Burro later on in the show, so I'm not going to talk about her very much right now, but and then 3-foot the echidnas. So echidnas are fucking cool, guys. Look them up if you haven't. It's ECHIN DA echidnas. They are like anteaters in the sense that they go after bugs and particularly termites in the wild. So even though their snout, or whatever you want to call it, their nose is extremely thin and narrow and super tiny, and they have this really super thin, tiny tongue, like it's small, like it's thinner than an earthworm in diameter, but it can go up to like 2 feet long, so that they can dig down into termite mounds to collect termites. So it was really cool learning about them. They are covered in quills, just like porcupines, and their quills are made up very similarly to that of porcupines, where they're actually like just these hollow tubes of keratin. But he was really cute and really awesome. And a theme that I do touch on later on as well is, every single one of these places, they're like, listen, these animals dictate how things are going and the day. So if this animal decides it's done with you and it doesn't want to hang out anymore, like, sorry, we appreciate your contribution in paying for this excursion. However, the animal sets the tone. So if the animal's not feeling you, or if the animal's just in a mood and wants to be left alone, we respect that. Like, they're not on display. They're not show ponies. This isn't a circus. It's not a petting zoo. We hope that you will do these excursions for education, and we do the best that we can to teach you about them. But at the end of the day, like, these animals are not here for you. And every single one of them throughout my trip made that extremely clear, which I loved that, honestly, because that's what it should be about, right? It should be about these animals, and we're not here to exploit them by any means. So that was awesome. So let's go to the next clip.
Hey gang, I didn't really talk about yesterday's activities at all. I went to the Lone Pine Koala Sanctuary, which was absolutely incredible. They have over 100 koalas and, some other wonderful animals as well. They actually have like a whole like barnyard area for little kids. They have a bunch of different birds of prey and, just regular native birds. But very much like the Australia Zoo, they take in any injured native animals and either try, the goal is ultimately to bring them back to their natural habitat. But if for whatever reason they're in a position where they wouldn't survive if they were released back into the wild, they do stay on site at the zoo. And it was just the sanctuary, I should say, but it was a really great day. And also, I found out the reason why they have digital speed limit signs is because if they have like a construction zone that's been created, or there's some type of traffic issue going on, they actually digitally adjust the speed. So that makes a lot more sense. And that's also why they have those signs, because if there's a malfunction or if they're like in between projects or something, they'll just shut the sign off. And that's why those signs are there that say, hey, if you can't read the digital sign, this is the actual speed limit at the time. So it makes way more sense. Which I guess I should have realized, because this place is very logical. And the more and more that I travel outside of the US, I've only been to Canada and Ireland and now here, and I'm going to France next year. But you guys have heard me talk with Tommy about some of the things that they do over there as well. Just the more and more I leave the US, I'm like, why? Like, why are we just surrounded by dumb dickheads that can't get organized and don't give a fuck and aren't thoughtful? And it's just, it's really hard when you're a very thoughtful person surrounded by people that just don't. And I've talked about this with Jessica, as you guys know, but it's like,
fuck? Like, I come here and it's so clean and everything just makes sense. And I don't understand it. I really fucking don't. But I encourage you guys to travel if you ever get the chance. I'm by myself. I'm by myself because it's a big trip. It's an expensive trip. It's the beginning of the year. People don't have the type of vacation that I have. So I know, I did reach out to a handful of friends that I thought might be able to come with me. But it just wasn't in the cards, and that happens. But I'm telling you, if you want to fucking go somewhere and you want to fucking do something, don't be held back by anyone else's excuses or anyone else's bullshit. You don't need to travel with someone. Is it great to share an experience? Sure, absolutely. But you know what, as far as I'm concerned, I'm sharing my experience here and on Facebook and on Snapchat. So I really don't need anyone. And quite frankly, it's been so nice being able to just do things when and how and the way I want to do them. So I set my schedule. I decide when it's time to leave. I decide when I want to eat. I decide where I want to go, if I want to go anywhere afterward, or, if I want to just stay in. I don't have the pressure of somebody else's opinions or wants or needs. Not, again, that sounds extremely selfish. Yeah, it fucking is. And I'm okay with that. It's my vacation. I'm spending my hard-earned money. I've made all of these plans and I'm going to do what I want to do. And you know what? I encourage everybody in their lives. Sometimes there are times when you need to be a little selfish and you need to treat yourself and take care of yourself and worry about yourself. Again, that's not to say like I wish to travel that way all the time, but I'm telling you, it has made things, it's a lot less stressful when you're just worrying about yourself and your shit. And again, when you're going by your own timeline and somebody's not rushing you to either leave or begging you to stay a little longer if you're exhausted, all those kinds of things. And again, I'm not trying to shit on people with kids. I'm not trying to shit on people in relationships. I'm just explaining this is why I don't have a problem traveling by myself. I really, because at the end of the day, this trip is turning out to be exactly what I want, the way that I want it to be. So yeah, the koala sanctuary was incredible. I learned so much. I definitely encourage you guys to look up and research the different animals that I've encountered so far. So a wombat, a white rhino, a koala, barn owl, barking owl, platypus, who was the other one? Oh, an echidna. It's just these animals are just so incredible, and that's why I go to these places. I have a friend that's like firmly against zoos and thinks zoos are the devil and thinks zoos are the problem with the world. It's like, no, honey, like the only reason the majority of these animals still exist is because of zoos and because of their conservation effort and because they're trying to educate the fucking world about what's going on out there. I mentioned it on Facebook. I don't know how many of you are on my Facebook page or checking out my Facebook page, but the rhino population has actually increased due to all of the education and conservation efforts and the anti-poaching efforts that are out there in the world. So that's an amazing thing. I had heard years ago, at some point they had started trying to dye the rhino horns for rhinos that are in the wild. They tried dyeing their horns to prevent poachers from killing them, to take their, for their horn. But unfortunately, the poachers were killing them anyway because they would go through all the trouble of tracking the rhino just to get to it and find that it had a dyed horn they couldn't use. So they would kill it anyway because now I just wasted all this time tracking it and I don't want to have to track it again to be disappointed. So it's really fucked, the whole thing. But again, because of the continuous effort and people, they just haven't given up on these animals, the rhino populations are increasing again, which is great. And again, a lot of it is due to zoos and their breeding programs and their educational programs and the fundraising that they're doing for their conservation efforts. So before you poo-poo anything, do your fucking research and learn a little bit about the world, because not everybody's out here just to make a profit off of, another creature's back. So
that's all I'm going to say about that. But it's been amazing. This is my last day in Brisbane and I'm kind of procrastinating. Like I need to get in the shower. I need to go have breakfast. I don't know why. I need to pack and finish organizing my shit. But I don't know why, but it's one of those, like you take your sweet time on your last day for some reason. But today I hit the road. I'm going to be going to Grafton along the East Coast for one night. It's about 3.5 hours from here, from Brisbane. And then tomorrow I hit the road again and I drive another 3 or so hours down to Taree, which again is along the coast. And then from Taree, I drive 3 hours into Sydney, and that is where I will end my trip. I'll be in Sydney for 5 days. So I'll be in Sydney for 5 days, 4 nights. And that's where I'll be seeing Taylor Swift, and I'm going to be doing some other really cool things there as well. So stay tuned. I'll keep updating you.
So I did find out, of course, like on my last night of the trip, that my hotel was in fact full service. They just didn't have a business center. Business centers are becoming a thing of the past because you can do everything on your phone, and you can't. And they didn't have a swimming pool, but again, they had a partnership with the Westin Hotel that was next door to us. So if I had wanted to go swimming, I could have used their pool. Like I said, I used their business center. But I did, like I said, I found out on the very last night that they actually did have a full service restaurant. It's one of those like skyscraper, high rise type hotels, which I'm not used to staying in. I'm used to staying, the local places around here are only like 4 or 5 stories. I think I was on the 15th floor of this hotel, and it was kind of like that, where it's like they had laundry services on like the 8th floor along with the fitness center. And they did actually have a full service restaurant that was available for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I did have breakfast at the hotel that morning, but it took me like 3 days before I found out. And it was only because I was on an elevator with someone who actually happened to stop on that floor to get food. And I was like, okay. So yeah, but again, you live and learn. Also another fun fact, because I don't talk about this later on. If you do look up a white rhino, they are gray. They are exactly what you expect to see in a rhino. It's what you picture in your head. They are not white. And apparently what had happened was the first people to discover these rhinos, I want to say they were from Norway or Sweden, something like that. And they're actually called wide rhinos, but the translation was a little funky. And it was skewed to and they wrote white instead of wide when they were trying to translate these, the language. So that's why they're called white rhinos, when in fact they are not white at all. So just again, little more fun education for that. So here is the clip on my drive I think this is my drive into Grafton.
Hey gang, in the car again. And again, I know I'm not supposed to be recording or snapping or taking pictures or whatever. That is the part that's really killing me, is that I can't take pictures while I'm driving. But I just wanted to talk. So my car is a 2011. So as you guys know, I don't know things. I have absolutely no idea what technology is like these days for modern vehicles, as mine is quite a bit older. I don't have any of the bells and whistles really. So getting in this rental car in Australia, their GPS is different than what I'm used to, because I use Google Maps, everything like that. Again, it's on my phone. It's not on the display in the car, but their GPS is amazing. Not only does it do, what Google Maps and Waze does, where it tells you the speed limit and all that kind of stuff, and if you're going too fast, whatever. But when an intersection comes up and you're trying to listen to the GPS and you're trying to follow the directions, it actually comes up with a picture of the intersection that you're coming up to. So say like the highway like branches off into 2 different spots, and it'll say to you like, not only stick in this lane, but it'll show you and it'll highlight the highway sign that you're supposed to drive under. So like there are 2 highway signs. One is for the Gold Coast, one is for the Pacific Motor Highway, and it'll highlight in green the Pacific Motor Highway, and it'll gray out the Gold Coast sign. So okay, I'm in the right lane, I'm going in the right direction, I'm under the right sign. It's pretty wild. And I am a big advocate of cruise control. I think cruise control is great, especially when you're on a long stretch of highway like I am. It's going to be highway driving pretty much the entire way down to Sydney. But their cruise control is almost like a driverless car. I don't know I forget what those are fucking called. I'm totally drawing a blank as I'm trying to explain this, but it follows along with the GPS in that it updates on its own when you change when the speed limit changes where you're at. So right now it's 80 kilometers per hour, but we're in a slowdown in a traffic jam. So the cruise control itself has dropped me down to 45 kilometers an hour because that's the way the traffic is going. Now we're going a little faster. It's bumped it up to 65 kilometers per hour. But again, the speed limit right now, and actually we've just changed it. So the speed limit is 110 kilometers per hour. But again, we're in what they would consider a traffic jam. This is not a traffic jam by any means because we are moving, in my opinion, but it's like, and that's the thing too, the GPS will be like, oh, in a mile or in a kilometer traffic jam. And I'm like, oh, sister, you don't know what a traffic jam is. Like, this is not a traffic jam. This is just a slowdown. But anyway, so the cruise control brakes and controls my speed based on what's going on around me, based on the speed limit that's set in the area. I will say the one thing that's a little annoying is that it goes a little slower than the speed limit. So like I'll get up to speed and I'm driving the exact speed limit. Oh, see, it's talking to me right now. Okay. So I'll set it to the exact speed that's posted, but it'll actually drop it down like a couple kilometers. So like if it's 110, it'll drop me down to like 105. And it's like, okay, but so I had heard coming into Australia that like that's the number one thing, like they're really adamant, like everybody follows the speed limit here, like nobody speeds. But honestly, it's because they're going pretty fast as it is. Like there are certain areas like in the Midwest and down south where like it's like the speed limit is 70 and shit like that. Like even in the rural areas, like the regular like just city streets, like I feel like I'm kind of whipping going through because I'm like, wow, like these speed limits are pretty high. So that's why you don't have to speed. It's because the speed limits are set for you to have a good old time on the street. And but yeah, I just wanted to share that because I just thought it was wild. Like I've never been in a situation, I've never had cruise control that did everything but steer for me. So I'm still steering. It's not completely driverless, obviously, but it's been a wild experience being like, oh fuck, like it's braking for me. Like I don't even have to touch the brake. I mean, it does say when you start with cruise control, it's like, hey, please, like, you know, pay attention to what the car is doing, pay attention to your surroundings, because obviously if something happens that's unpredictable, you've got to take control. But I just wanted to share that because it's just fucking wild. And yeah, so I am an hour or so into my 3.5 hour drive down to Grafton. And I'm looking for a Hungry Jack's. It's another place that I wanted to try out. I've been listening to an Australian podcast, so I'm kind of going on like this, they're called Tony and Ryan. I'm trying to go on this like Tony and Ryan tour. So like everything that they've mentioned, I'm trying to check off the list. So I've already been to Nando's. I've already been to Red Rooster. I've already been to Bunnings, which is Australia's Home Depot. I know you guys are like, what the fuck? But I want to do some local shit on top of the touristy shit. So that's kind of what I've been doing. So I'm looking for a Hungry Jack's for lunch, somewhere along the highway here. That it's their version of a Burger King. They do have McDonald's, but it's their version of a Burger King. So, they've mentioned that on the pod before. So I'm going to try out Hungry Jack's. And also what's really bizarre, first of all, you guys, I passed an Outback Steakhouse. Which I feel like no, that's just wrong. That's so fucking wrong. Like, I can't imagine any Australians go. But I also feel like if you're a tourist and you're going to Outback Steakhouse in Canada, in Australia, wow, you're a dickhead. But oh, they have a SeaWorld. Oh, I kind of want to get off the highway and go to the SeaWorld. I'm not going to do it, but that's so funny. But yes, don't go to Outback in Australia. That's fucked. Like if you're from another country, so like if you're from Japan, like I would assume Japan doesn't have any Outback Steakhouses. God, I fucking hope they don't. So like, I guess that makes sense, but like more like go when you're in America. Don't go when you're in Australia because it's just so fucking weird to me. But it's really been funny seeing other things that I feel are like so inherently American here in Australia. So like I passed an Anytime Fitness and I was like, what? And I know this isn't American, but they have IKEAs here and I've passed like 3 and I'm like, I kind of want to go to IKEA in Australia. I don't know why. Like, I'm sure it's exactly the same because that's the whole point of IKEA. Like, they set it up that way. But their IKEAs look even nicer than ours. And I don't know. It's just, it's so funny, the things that I'm seeing and being like, what? Like, why is that here? Car dealerships I get, like it's like, it is what it is. Like, I feel like car dealerships are everywhere. So that hasn't been a big deal. But like I said, Brisbane is just what they would call bogan, which is really like preppy, like has a lot of money. As I mentioned, they've got a Maserati dealership and an Hermes and a Christian Louboutin. And so it's been really funny, like driving through and being like, oh fuck, like Brisbane is like, you know, again, like New York City, like Times Square, like they have a shit ton of money around here. It's pretty wild. But I'm taking it all in and I'm just fascinated by all of it. And I would love to get like, I wish I could really like talk. I did talk to some of the guides at the koala sanctuary yesterday, and I was telling them about like my Tony and Ryan checklist that I've been going through and all the local places that I've been to. And they've been like, oh, shut the fuck up. Like, you went to Nando's. Like, it's so funny. Like they were like really appreciative that I'm really trying to like stick with like strictly Aussie shit. And they gave me suggestions for like some burrito places and things like that. So that was kind of cool. But I'm having the best time exploring and learning about the place. But like I said, it's just so fucking funny to see things like Outback and Anytime Fitness. And, you know, again, I expect McDonald's, sure, but just certain things it's just so funny to me. I'm like, that, like, you guys shouldn't have that here. That's so, like, they have Kmart. Like, Kmart is everywhere here for some reason. I don't know if it started. I think it did start in Australia. So maybe that's why. I did also try to go to a Target thinking that it was like our Targets at home. It is not. Target here is basically like Sears and JCPenney. Like, it's for clothes and gifts and home furnishings. There are no supermarkets built into their Targets. So that was kind of surprising. But again, I went to Kohl's, which is their supermarket, one of their supermarkets. They do have like a Woolworths, which I almost went into because I've actually never been to a Woolworths before. So if I see another one, I'm probably going to go in and just check it out. But yeah, it's just been so much fun driving through and like just seeing different things and being like, okay, so what is that? Like, is that a Burger King or is that a gas station or is that, you know what I mean? Like, it's been really, really interesting. So I'm having a really good time. It's day 4. And like I said, I'm just doing my 2 travel days right now. And I'm just gonna, you know, stop wherever I see something cool, and hopefully I'll see some cool shit. But right now it's pretty much just highway. Like, I'm driving down the coast, but I really haven't seen the shore. So I'm hoping I'll catch a glimpse of the ocean at some point in my journey, but I'm really not sure yet. So yeah, I just wanted to share that because, again, I thought the whole thing with the GPS and their cruise control, and again, I don't know if it's specific to this car, if it's specific to Australia, if all the cars have this function or what, but it's just wild to me. So again, the speed limit right now is 100 kilometers per hour, but there's a slowdown, so the cruise control has me going at 70. So it's pretty interesting. Check back in with you next time.
So that whole clip is embarrassing, and I kind of wish I maybe had listened to these before I played them all, because I came back and I'm telling Dr. Miles about that, and he's like, oh, it's called intuitive cruise control. So again, my car that I am driving here at home is a 2011 and has no bells and whistles, which my mother reminds me of every time she gets in the car, because she goes, oh, you don't have this, or oh, you can't do that. No, it's a 2011. It's a 13-year-old car. No, I can't do anything. It still has a CD player. No, I have none of these functions. I do have regular cruise control, which is what I'm used to. So, you know, I sound like fucking Pollyanna, like going to the big city in that clip. And I do apologize. There's a ton of cursing, and clearly I haven't curbed that while recapping this as well. But man, that clip was embarrassing. I do apologize. I'm just like blown away by what apparently a lot of cars these days now come equipped with. Also, another thing, I had picked up
I borrowed my uncle had a couple spare cell phones. So I borrowed one of his spare cell phones with the intention of getting a SIM card because, again, completely forgetting the fact that all of these cars now come with bells and whistles and screens and good shit. So when my mom and I went to Ireland, we had been given a GPS unit, but it was really, really unreliable. We're talking, this is 2017. And they had even said to us, they were like, there is supposed to be built-in Wi-Fi in the car, but it's completely unreliable. So we're going to give you a GPS unit so that you don't have to, struggle trying to use the GPS through your phone with the spotty Wi-Fi. So that's kind of what I was expecting on this trip as well. I was expecting to have to use my phone for GPS, and I didn't want to fuck with my phone and have to, remove a SIM card and put my SIM card in and switch back and forth. So I just said, fuck it, I'll bring my uncle's spare cell phone that he's got and I'll get a SIM card. I picked up the SIM card for $35. The SIM card never worked in his phone. There was all kinds of connectivity issues and again, if I wasn't anywhere where I could connect to Wi-Fi, it was a whole thing. And I ended up not needing it anyway because the car had all the bells and whistles. It was a 2023, I think, model. So it had the screen. It had, again, the intuitive cruise control, and it had the GPS built right in there that, like I said, that was kind of connected and working in step with the cruise control. So every time I would go over the speed limit, the GPS would yell at me, and such. So live and learn. I mean, these are, like I said, I went in there expecting to have to like fully fend for myself when in fact my rental car took care of the job for me. So we're getting close to the hour mark. So I'm going to play one more clip, and this is actually going to set us right in through the halfway mark of the trip itself as well. So I'll play one more clip, chat about whatever it is we're going to listen to next, and then I'll end it, and we'll get into the next episode next week.
Gang, sorry, I didn't mean to do this, but I just passed the sign that said, one of those wear your seatbelt signs or you get a fine. Gang, the fine in Australia for not wearing a seatbelt is $1,100. 1,100 Australian dollars, by the way, which in America, I guess would be like $700, but $700 for not wearing your seatbelt. This is why all of these other countries are so much better than America, because they have their shit together, because they will pay for it if they don't. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, this is what Jessica and I were talking about, like in China when COVID first happened, they were like, you'll put shame on your family if you leave the house without a mask. Yeah, like, let everybody know, don't be a fuckhead. And by the way, if you're gonna be a fuckhead, you're gonna pay for it. So fuck around and find out. This is exactly what I will. Like, America, it's not about fucking freedom. Like, being fined for not being a fuckhead is not taking away your freedom. Like, you don't, like, freedom does not mean being able to be a fuckhead. Like, I'm sorry. It's so fucking absurd to me. It's so absurd. Stop being a fuckhead or pay for it. Like, fucking, it's that simple. It should be that fucking cut and dry. And it kills me that it's not. But I'm telling you, I'm driving here. There's no fucking litter anywhere. There's no graffiti all over the place. There's no dead animal carcasses on the side of the road. That's just like fucking normal every day. Like, people, everyone's obeying the speed limits. People are wearing their seatbelts. Like, fuck, man. Get it together, America. Damn it.
Other than apologizing for all of the cursing in that one, I think that's a pretty good place to end, actually. And again, we are literally halfway through the trip there. So I am going to end this first episode of season 2 on that note. And, guys, don't be a fuckhead.